Welcome everybody. We are just starting it now, guys. Welcome to another podcast. I believe this is episode 6, maybe. It is called What is Rave or What is Raves to you? We're not talking about rave parties as such, even though we might talk about it actually, because I'm also a rave party organizer from before. And it's funny for me to see how they're somehow starting to intercept those trajectories. But yeah, we're going to have a very existential discussion here today, I think, and visionary and talk about what the raves are. And this is in the series for those of you who might watch after on YouTube or Facebook. This is in the series called The Countdown to 2027. And from the human sciences knowledge, we know that in 2027, there's a great mutation point. Yeah, just catching my breath here. And by the way, for the audience, after I'm in the presence of 4 projectors here, so the focus is amazing. It's very tuned, it's very focused as such. And I'm a manifesting generator. I like to go fast. So I feel the foundation of your energy actually that can make me go fast, but it's still good to take a breath. So yeah. So yeah, this can catch my thought here, but this episode is about that mutation in 2027. And there's many things happening. It's already happening. The end of cross of planning, or the cross of planning is kind of, we are feeling the ends of it. We are now 7 years until 2027. But kind of the focus today, and maybe the most significant thing, which is also at the same time very abstract to relate to, is that birth of a new species on Earth. And we're not talking about, our perception, especially now with Freud and everything, like black or yellow or white or whatever. But we're talking about a new form, as Neanderthals was different to Homo sapiens. And we know, as a subset to that in human design context, that we are Homo sapiens in transitus. There was a prior major also mutation in 1781, but as Ra and the information tells us, that wasn't a visible one. In the same, it was a left mutation basically back then. So it was a huge one because it was from 7 to 9 centers in the auric form. But on the physical plane, it wasn't that visible. If you go back from the Neanderthals, who were 5 centers, to the Homo sapiens, who were 7 centers, and that mutation point was maybe 150,000 years ago. That was a big physical difference, right? Yeah, and that's what we are basically, at least, shall we say, in the best, shall we say, verifying factor. That's what we are foretold, at least from Ra and his knowledge, that there's a new form coming, and it has you're going to have a huge difference than us, basically. And if you follow this series, the previous episode was about Down syndrome and autism, and that's what we are kind of this podcast kind of continues from there. As these beings already on Earth, part of this mutative field, you have autism and you have Downs, shows on the left and right spectrum here, and then in between you have a lot of mutations, the Angelman syndrome, and then there's a plethora of them. So I guess for me it's clear that we have to use this as a factor to observe kind of where it's leading. And no doubt they have great physical differences. Maybe for me, best portrayed in the Dawns, having this very kind of uniform, shall we say, personality over them, and physical, obviously physical changes, and a physical profile, shall we say, but also an awareness profile. Those who are used to working with Dawns, I have professional experience with them. and also friends with children, there's a thing that kind of repeats itself as a trait with dawns all over the world, is that the heart is something that is kind of their trademark of it. First of all, they are often born with a heart failure, which is one of their primary causes for not living longer lives. They get heart complications, basically. But also, I know some parents in Norway with a daughter, and also parents in Sweden with a daughter, and they both paint hearts. So there's something, I mean, that's just on the surface, and we're not going to go into that now, but you can listen to the previous podcast. But I have just the world's most amazing story to tell in just my experience with the dawns. I would love to see myself write a book about that, just for my own satisfaction. It's short story told. It started in 2003, maybe 2004, right after my son was born. I think it was 2003, the first meeting when I encountered One with Dawns, and I got, it started as like a little seed. I was afraid of it. I was like, didn't know why I got this. I mean, it was a clear, shall we say, calling. I call it a hunch, because it was a pull behind my right shoulder very often, or in the first years, maybe first 7 years, it was a pull from the back, and then it shifted to a pull from the front. So there is this deep experience with them that started very kind of in my light, very kind of like it showed me how limited I was. But in the 15 years after, I'm meeting One with Dawns, and that's, after hundreds of meetings, yeah, a lot of meetings, and they all had this consecutive evolution to them, as it was the same being I met again and again, but it was never that. It was always new beings. And in the end, just to kind of give you the timeline, I'm on my way to a rave party, actually, in the Norwegian forest. I'm dressed in this Viking tunica I was a shepherd at the time, and I had this very pointed, huge sheep hat that I made by myself from Baltasar, the ram, and I had this cane with a crystal, and I was just fully, I mean, it wasn't many years, I kind of fully coming to my G center, my creative, mutative impact. I was going deep into the forest, and then there's a couple of joggers approaching me, and then I get the hunch from in front of me, like 200 meters away. I'm like, okay, there's One with Dawns, and I'm like, wow, what's the odds of this? Like the middle of the fucking forest. Excuse my French here. And it was a mother, maybe around 70, and a kid with Dawns. And they came jogging past me. And yeah, sorry. I mean, now I will share, and I didn't share this last time, but there's so much to this story. But it was a very unique meeting, because upon that point, basically, they had kind of, my journey with them had kind of pulled me more and more out into my hermit and individual character somehow. And it taught me to be very proactive in the meetings with them. I guess I learned a way to connect with them. Easily said, I connect into my heart. Oops. I just kind of, rest physically in my heart, and then I just let it go somehow, and just look at them, But so I was, at that point, in this last meeting, I met them after that also, but this was kind of a very highlight of a process. I was very ready, I saw him before he saw me. I was in this outfit, and, if you work with Dawns, they love magic, they love playing character roles, I was just like, wow, this is just perfect. It was the Pied Piper, and that's in my design, actually. That my teacher told me that in a reading. So it was really literally the Pied Piper for them. But he was in this. It was the first time I met One with Dawns this was an area in Norway, which is kind of a rich part, and I kind of profiled them very quickly that, they were better off, and he had used all his energy trying to be normal. And I saw in the way he was jogging, because he was kind of, you know, looking down and just like, he was giving all of his awareness to like just jogging with his mother, and they were dressed in the same jogging suits and everything. It was a very unique example. So yeah, let that be kind of like a story just to kind of build the fundament for kind of what is Raves. We are entering into something very, very different. Just to remember Ra's words, just to understand how different he basically said or understood, I guess from the voice, how they will be. It has to do with the solar plexus and the mutated form. I will go into a presentation here now. I haven't made a very solid presentation today, guys. It's a bit of a retrograde mood here, but I have something. So, okay, this text we will go into later, but you know, the main, you know, focus is the solar plexus. And for us, as this nine-centered being, Homo sapiens in transitus, very short, I mean, we are a unique species or form in ourselves, but because we are so, I mean, we won't get to be as old as the seven-centered was. I mean, they have 150,000 years, generators, reflectors, manifestors, all the way back to from the Neanderthal shift, basically. We, from 1781, Ra gives us like 3,000 years max before something else is happening bigger, and but that's something else, basically, the 11th-centered being and stuff like that. But I mean, listening to that, and it's like 1,000 years, 2,000 years, oh wow, you know, it's already abstract, it's kind of hard to relate to. But looking at the evolutionary perspective and seeing that the 7th-centered had like 150,000 years. Okay, 9th-centered beings, okay, pretty short. And I guess in a way, we are just here to facilitate the Raves, because we are carrying the solar plexus in this dual state, right? Awareness and motor. And even though the mutation comes in 2027, that won't change our mechanics. The wave will, something will happen, he says, because you know, it's in the root there, now in the gate 39. The wave pressure won't be there anymore, but for sure we will at least live out the not self wave pressure from, you know, and given kind of juxtaposed to the situation we might face. So, you know, we won't experience that mutation in that sense. I think he also says it will be a notable change. And there's an argument here also. I'm not sure if it's correct. We can go into everything, but you know, the ones who are born after, who is not Raves but still nine-centered, you know, because same in 1781 and then back to the Neanderthals in 7th-centered, there's a, you know, evolutionary shift. It's like, you know, it's coexistence for a while. I mean, that's how it is. I think Ra said something about the last 7th-centered died in 2012 or something. So that's coexistence. So maybe the 9th-centered beings born after the mutation will have a, I mean, most likely they will have a more mutated solar plexus and a kind of framework than we also will have, that will go through the shift. But you know, I think it's going to be a very, I literally feel it's like a plug going out. It's going to be very kind of, I mean, maybe it's my detriment, personality, sun, 13, second line in detriment, that's kind of seeing this, but like, okay, if this is quarantine life, lockdowns, business shut down year after year, you know, more limitations, you know, more, you cannot go here, you cannot buy this, you know, there's less and less things, and then the emotional energy is like less joy, less pain, less sorrow, basically, because more people will try to hold it in. I mean, you know, I think we're also definitely in for a shift. But that's us. The Raves will have, they will just be, you know, different. And I worked in the field, and you know, I was an undercover human design agent, of course, in best possible will. I cannot meet these people. I mean, it was just one way to meet them. The way I met them, nobody else met them there. Not even the managers or anything. I mean, their policies, everything is just contradictory to living out their potential. But in Norway, there's still a good model. I mean, other places it's worse. Maybe not. I'm starting to meet them in Romania also. And they seem more independent here somehow. Pretty cool. But yeah, I lost my track a little bit there. But the raves, yeah, and my experience working in that field, I mean, there was this one profile who was what we call in Norwegian cerebral parese, which is basically a full body paralyzation in wheelchair, you know, maybe like Stephen Hawking, you know, basically. But also, you know, a strong autism or maybe something else, shall we say, exotic mutative, you know, and just being in their aura, I think they are suffering the most, because I just have to say that they're suffering. I mean, talking about, I mean, they are living out a nightmare in many ways. And I think that in the plethora of them, they are kind of like, you know, as the, you know, like our bodies and trauma, we just try to get by. So they, you know, it's not that they're like suffering, like constantly crying, or but you know, they are kind of, their awareness is shut down, shall we say, as ours, I guess, also in the collective. But where I met, it was not the case. They opened up, but I can see, for example, nutrition for them. We know that's a subset of the mutation. Our whole dietary system is changing. I guess that's why PHS is ultimately important. Not to live it out correctly now, but just understand that things are changing at least. But they need to have a very different diet. That's also what he says about the raves. I mean, he uses time to speak about this. He says that they would definitely not be eat meat, and you know, most likely not food at all, you know. And with that profile, I didn't work with them, but I've just been around them in the aura field, in the wheelchair, cerebral parese, and these other things. I think they are just suffering because, you know, they just need to have crystals and liquids, you know. I mean, okay, it's a logic, like their body is fully paralyzed, you know, what do they need food for? I mean, why do they need so much? They need, you know, they need their organs, you know, and they need their mind, but the conditioned society uses the model like, you know, it's such a stigma, because the science and the medic, they define them as something is wrong, but they don't understand why, even though it don't even have extra chromosome. I mean, it's like, it's pretty stupid, right? But so we are trying to make them normal or fix them. So we're using our model to try to make them closer to what we are, to adapt to our society. And in Norway, again, where I worked, you know, in practical sense, it's very nice, because it's a nice country, there's much freedom, but like, then there was this just dilemma with their nutrition, you know. There was like yogurt and gluten, and, you know, and I worked with projector. I had a projector partner for 5 years, you know, there was no gluten, you know, well, forget about that stuff. So, and, you know, and I got to see how gluten interferes with the belly. And for me, you know, I'm an open mind generator. I should have shown my chart here, but open mind, open solar plexus, open spleen. So, but, you know, the belly is the container for the emotional solar plexus waves. For me, which is open. And the actual solar plexus, as the Hindus told us about up here, where the ribs meet, that is the brain of the belly, or the brain of the solar plexus, in the way in which the not self brain is, you know, creating a construct of your thoughts in a paradigm with pressure that is detrimental to you. The brain of the emotions, the belly, is there. I mean, that's just my trip, basically. My yoga, as a yoga teacher and everything. But then I kind of transpolated that into their field, because this is my research so far, is that I think that the autism, I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but the autism and the Downs represent each side of our left and right spectrum of mutation. And this is what we know from also, you know, the prime mutation is always, the forms go from left to right in the mutational sense. And when there's a right mutation, like now, it's a biggest impact to the body, basically, to the physical form. So I kind of boil it down to that the Dawns, they represent the solar plexus awakened, like what the Rave's gonna have, but still not what a Rave gonna be. I mean, I'm discerning it as such. And the autism, they have that more left, shall we say, representation of the mutation, which is a byproduct of the brain system. So when Ra talks about the Raves, it's like, okay, they're gonna have the solar plexus mutated, but in practical sense, because we're not gonna understand anything of that, you know, quantum solar plexus dimension anyways, because they're just gonna have these abilities in the electromagnetic field, which is just like, okay, levitation, of course, and I mean, we don't know, we will never know, but because there's a stream, basically, you know, that starts in the 39 in the roots, in the 55, and it goes to the brain, basically. And I think the autisms represent that, shall we say, byproduct of the mutation in the brain, because they're literally very, very unique, but they have these amazing, you know, capacities, mental capacities. So I think these two mutations, Downs and the autism, represent each side of the spectrum, and there's a middle, you know, in between, a plethora. And I mean, it's not really important if it's left or right or left or whatever, but I think that makes sense for me, basically. And that's also my experience, you know, working with, I also have very personal experience with autism, actually, with a friend's kid who was in an accident. Very short story. He displayed, you know, some of these mutations in the brain, you know, in the eye capacity. You know, the way we use our eyes is in a left sense, basically. We focus and identify. We have a very, very limited, first of all, limited spectrum, but also very limited understanding of what we actually think we are seeing, basically. And he, just since he was a kid, he never made eye contact. That was his thing. It was like amazing, you know, like a 1-year-old that, like, it was so much awareness in that kid because he didn't make eye contact, because he was looking around you, looking at my nose, you know, whatever, but not in the eyes. And it took time, and eventually it did. But there was one incident. I remember he was in another room in the apartment with the parents, and we were sitting in one room, and I could feel him as he sent out like an echo. You know, in the sea, you have this echo sound, like doo, 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 and you can measure distance, basically. He sent out something that I just like, aha, like, I mean, I don't know what he interpreted from that. I just like, because I guess that's some part of my design, I guess, am I connecting with them? I just felt him. So he could basically see us kind of through the wall. That's how my little brain managed to translate it. But he can see through physical walls basically, but he's not seeing through the wall as we had to understand it, but it's more in understanding of an echo, you know, like some vibrations but the interesting thing with him, like that was more interesting for him than to be in our eyes. And I didn't see that from this like autistic or something is wrong with it. I was like, oh, okay. Because I'm also a rave organizer and then we showed him, you know, psychedelic patterns and everything. And and he loved that stuff, you know. And his father is from Iran and they had Persian carpets and he was just like all up in patterns since the beginning. So, you know, I saw him very clearly. And we went through a very, very traumatic experience where he was run over by a car by his mother's cousin, basically. He broke all the bones in his body except one bone in the hip, I think was, if that's broken, he would have been fucked. But his brain was cracked, I mean, everything. And I'm so happy to be here with projectors. I see some also Lorena, we'll see what Lorena is, but I mean, he showed me actually before this incident, but I got aware of it after, that he did it on purpose. He managed to, you know, just roll out of or go down from the trolley, which was new to the parents. He had never done that before, basically. They had just put him out to sleep. And he just found like a perfect way to just have the car run over him, just break everything so he can just come back, basically, and just have a crack to have more awareness. Because, and it was also actually, he also told me when he was in a coma for 3 weeks, and communicated with him a lot. And he told me also basically like, I mean, this is not to judge the parents, I love them, but it was also to give them a little lesson. But it wasn't all, because it was conflicted for them, you know. She's Norwegian, he was Iranian, and living in Norway. And on top of that, they had both of their kids had an autism. Leo, the youngest one, this kid, the strongest one. So it was very challenging for them. So it was a kind of, it was an environment that was, you know, it was challenging, but that wasn't the case for him. It was just like, no, they're just giving me shit food, you know. And I could see that was some of their bad pattern, because they gave them more type of sugar food. They caved into more gluten, milk, also because the emotional field was, you know, bad. So it was a bad spiral. And he was kind of like, you know, I just want my awareness. So that's how I do it, you know. And okay, I don't give a shit, whatever. I mean, it was pretty abrupting thing. But he was in a coma for 3 weeks. And during that coma, he said also that I'm going to come back more clearer, shall we say. He didn't say it in such words, but it was more like, you know, in just like the trauma of him being cracked open, that he was going to come back together, and it's going to be a bigger crack for his awareness to come out in. And he had a miraculous healing. I mean, 2 weeks... No, that's not right. His bones was healed in 2 weeks while he still was in a coma. And one of the first days he came out from the coma after 3 weeks, my friend, he came out in the wheelchair, and I met him. So he had basically a miraculous healing. And this is in his journals, basically. So as another sub-project I have to interview them into a book, basically, because we can access the medical records. Because I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but like if you have, I mean, literally all of your bones cracked, they didn't think he would survive. I mean, he 3 weeks in coma, and then just like what in like 3 or 4 weeks you're totally healed. It seems more like years of coming back. I don't know though. Babies are very agile, so it could be an aspect of that. his design actually, he has the full integration channels except gate 10. So he had the open G, but he had the sacral, the spleen, and the throat. So he was, and we know that about those integration channels. They are tough fuckers. You know, you can't really kill them. Actually, that's what my teacher told me. You can't, Richard. You can't really kill them, Christo. I remember that during his experience. So yeah, I have now talked for half an hour. I mean, again, now we're not to be live. We were supposed to do this a week ago. There's a retrogrades. I love retrograde personally, but there wasn't really any drive. I think I got just a couple of registrations. So I postponed it a week. Some, not very much drive still, but well, there is, of course, but I haven't made a professional. I didn't even make a flyer for this event. But I have a video to show you before we engage with every one of you. But I have basically put together a little collage here of photos I found on the Facebook, you know, on Google, no, on startpage.com. Forget Google, startpage.com. Basically, but we can use them as reference points, I guess. Yeah. So I will go out of the stop share. And then I will show this video that I made. You've probably already seen it, which is, I started with this entry question to the group on Facebook, on the Rave Mutation group. And it's not required. I let in people, 99% basically. Of course, if there's always someone from Nigeria who shouldn't be there, maybe. I mean, maybe that's very it's not racist, but we're stereotyping of me. But there's some people that don't let in. But anyways, that's not the point of it. Sometimes it's just bots, basically, and some of them come from Nigeria. Just happen to be. But yeah, so the entry question is, what is Rave to you? And it is an honor for me. You know, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world that gets to like see these questions answered, because okay, it's mine, but I also am I'm into this, but I mean, it's mine still for me. So it's very interesting to see other people's minds, and it's beautiful answers. It's really, really beautiful answers. And I'm collecting them in a subset of 81, basically, which is representing a gene pool. 81 people is a gene pool, which is 5 VAs and 1 alpha, I think, or 1 alpha for each VA. And then a VA is, you know, 3 to 5 people, 3 groups of 3 to 5 people, something like that. So that's how I'm presenting this, shall we say, field study of mine in the human design community, is through the gene pool. So the frame is, you know, what is Rave to you? And then this is the gene pool's answer, basically. And I collected already 81 answers. So I'm going to show you this video now. I was supposed to premiere the second video because I almost have 81, but it didn't go so. This retrograde fucked us. Sorry for my language tonight. Hey, Gennaro. No, I'm just kidding, but I will show that next video when it comes, basically. So I will turn off my camera soon. And I will show you this video. There we go. What is Rave to you? And this is on YouTube also. You can watch it again. A little intro here. We don't have time to see them all. I guess it goes a bit fast. I'm probably going to improve the quality of this as we go. I'm not really experienced in video editing. Luca Ionescu helped me a lot. A big shout out to him. But still, you know, here we go. And to be an abstract individual generator, I think I have performed this in a very logical manner. As I get an answer in, they are indexed into a number, of their participation, basically, into that gene pool. So they are in a consecutive order. It doesn't make such sense now, basically, but it was interesting to see the last one, number 81, which will come here, which is then the alpha of the gene pool. I think it was an interesting answer from that position, basically. So I guess it's a lot of good ideas. I mean, I'm not Christodamus or anything, but in the sense that there is some, it's not like whacked answers all over the place. It seems to be a shared understanding. Of course, there's always this and that. But, I like beautiful things. And, if I think all of these answers are beautiful, basically. I mean, I haven't excluded anything because I thought it was weird or inappropriate or anything. And when you listen to this on YouTube or on our Facebook, there's a beautiful track through this video. I actually, where I am, is my first track of music where I'm accompanying. It's my friend David Y from Hungary, a neighbor country here to Romania. He's a patron of the Human Design Festival. He made the logo and the animation, and he's 2/4 manifesting generator, emotional, like super talented graphics guy. He's one of the organizers of Ozora Festival in Hungary, which is the second largest rave festival in the world. They are trendsetters for sure. And the other one is Boom Festival in Portugal. These people, it's like 50, 60, 70,000 people of ravers. And I guess it's given an opportunity to kind of conjunct those two for me, because I was in the rave scene also before I met Human Design. And down the line, I was like, okay, rave parties. And I was like, nah, there's nothing there. But I guess it's somehow aligning a bit. I'm not sure why I've come to that conclusion, but part of it is that my, shall we say, fundament of experimenting with human design, it took place in Norway, basically. Before I moved here to Romania, I'm in my 14th year with human design. So 12 years was, working a lot. I was a pioneer in Norway, basically, working a lot. And that was basically people in the rave scene. They didn't pay you any money, but they were very open and mutative. And I'm a mutative being, so it fitted me well. But I don't see them. Okay, so here we come. Can I pause this? And last, the super alpha. What is your mistero? It's perfect. It's a guy from Spain. Mistero. It's just perfect. No? Isn't that perfect? Give me a high five or whatever. Like, if that wasn't perfect, I don't know. Okay.